Good morning, this is TalkSport Breakfast with Arnold Clark. Click and collect your next car from a dealer you trust. I'm Natalie Soy, and alongside me today it's the Aston Villa legend, Gabby O'Connell. How are you doing, Gabby?
I'm very well. Good morning, how are you?
I'm very, very well. Are you excited about tonight with Aston Villa?
It's always nice when your club's playing in Europe, you know, Natalie. I'm not sure you know about that.
No, I don't.
One day.
You never know.
Yeah,
That's the ambition for many clubs, I'm sure.
If your injuries come back, you know, big complaints about you, about injury problems.
We have had injury problems, and like many clubs, we're not the only one. But it's a big night though at Villa Park.
Yes.
European football back.
Must
of course.
win.
Does it feel like that already?
Oh yeah, I think you lose your first game, you want to get your win over the line, and I think tonight's the sort of game where you play strongest side.
Yeah.
60 minutes, you're 3-0 up maybe, and you start taking players off.
Okay. You're hoping for a similar winning feeling that we saw last night at St. James's Park,
of course.
Gabby, where Newcastle welcomed Champions League football back in style.
You heard them like Eleven comes in, and it is Miguel Almiron from close range. Absolutely unbelievable scenes here at Newcastle United.
Newcastle United 2, Paris Saint-Germain 0. You heard that right. Newcastle 2, PSG 0.
Get a load of this. Newcastle 3, Paris Saint-Germain 0.
The atmosphere was very special. I knew it would be. It's an amazing place to play football regardless of the competition, but I think there was an extra level tonight.
Another chance here for Newcastle, and a shot comes in. Absolutely fantastic effort from the edge of the 18-yard area, and that is an absolute belter of a goal.
Paris Saint-Germain and Kylian Mbappe have been hammered by Newcastle. It's finished Newcastle 4, Paris Saint-Germain 1.
Eddie Howe, absolute tactical genius.
There'll be a recession in Newcastle tomorrow because nobody's at work.
Absolutely brilliant, man.
Every single Newcastle fan who's in this ground tonight will remember this for the rest of their lives.
This is the best day of my life.
As that said, we hope that gives us that inner belief that we need to be successful in this competition.
Eddie Howe, a god on the time.
Sit up Europe, Newcastle United are well and truly back centre stage.
It was a cracking victory. Geordie boys Dan Burn and Sean Longstaff upstaged Kylian Mbappe on a night of European glory then for the Toon as they put 4 past PSG. 4-1 the final score at St. James's Park. They both scored, as I mentioned, Burn and Longstaff on the night. That's after Miguel Almiron had opened the scoring before Fabian Schär's sensational long-range goal capped the perfect night on Tyneside. It was Newcastle's biggest winning margin in a Champions League match and PSG's heaviest group stage defeat since 2004. After the game, the Newcastle boss Eddie Howe said it was a special night.
I really do respect the people that, the Geordies, as you say, that have had sort of lifelong associations with the club and understand what it means to play for Newcastle. Have a unique experience, really. So for Sean to score as he did and play like he did, and for Dan, they're amazing moments in their careers. But, you know, going from the difficult moment that we were in to now, I think it's a great lesson for us not to get ahead of ourselves. You know, we've come a long way in a short period of time, but we want to keep going and we take nothing for granted. So, amazing night, but we've got to continue to work hard for more.
Gabby, I think this is going to be a Newcastle takeover today, isn't it? Because it's an incredible victory, and we want to hear from Newcastle fans this morning. Maybe some of you are just getting in from celebrating what was a brilliant, brilliant victory. Where would this rank in terms of your greatest moments as a fan, and how far do you think now you can go in the Champions League? You are top of Group F, unbeaten after your first 2 games. You can give us a call on 03717 223344. Why not send us a text if you want to 81089 as well. Gabby, before we get your thoughts on what we witnessed last night, TalkSport's Harry Durham was up in Newcastle for us and caught up with an emotional Geordie after the game.
It's been 20 years. 20 long years. You just smashed PSG 4-1.
Unbelievable.
Best night of your life?
Oh, in the last 20 years, I wouldn't disagree. Unbelievable. I was there 20 years ago. When we 3-1, we were nervous.
You're getting a bit emotional, mate.
I am emotional, because it's the 4th goal, please. Look at all these people in the city, full of the French boys are coming, the big guns are here. But Newcastle are back. Newcastle are coming. You have to listen.
Do you know what? That won't be the only tears that would have been shed. What did you make of that performance?
I think first of all, you have to give big credit to Eddie Howe. You know, he didn't get over respect PSG. The way they pressed from the front, I thought Gordon and Almiron set the tempo, and you could see from the first 3-4 minutes the fans fed off that. Gordon chased one down and went out for a goal kick. The fans are all cheering, and it set the tempo. And the longer the game went on, it was as if Newcastle's players started to think as well, these aren't all that. You know, you get 2 or 3 bodies around Mbappe and Dembele. I said it yesterday. That's probably what they will do. And the rest of the team look average. Ramos, Muani, they'd done nothing in the game. And I think you've got to give credit to the tactics of Eddie Howe. And you could tell they were organised. They were confident that they could get the result. And we talk about possession and we talk about stats not meaning anything. 73% possession for PSG. But Newcastle, 8 shots on target, PSG 2.
Yeah.
So it just shows possession they had was Marquinhos passing it to his centre-half partner, Hakimi passing it round the back. Newcastle's tactics were perfect. Sit back, press at the right times, and go and score goals.
Yeah, I always think the possession stat is a skewed one because it never tells you is that offensive or defensive.
The goalkeeper has the most of the ball. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a brilliant victory and a fantastic night. You could sense, if you weren't there, as I wasn't, obviously, but you could sense the atmosphere. You could sense the anticipation and the excitement about what was being seen on St James's Park.
The tactics, though, Natalie, from PSG, they had four attackers. At one stage there were 4 of them in a line. I feel like, is that disrespect from Enrique? Was he thinking this was going to be a stroll in the park?
Yeah.
Because the way Marquinhos got the ball and come inside, tried to dink it over Bruno heads it down, Isaac shoots and Almiron scores afterwards. It was like they thought it was going to be a stroll in the park. Let's play 4 attackers. It's going to be an easy game, not knowing what the tempo, the atmosphere is like at St James's Park.
It was not like that at all. As you say, I mean, they gave the ball away so cheaply, PSG. And as you said, that first goal in particular from Marquinhos trying to play it out, if you like, was easily intercepted by Bruno, and then they went on to open the scoring early doors. I mean, a lot of focus is on Kylian Mbappe, as it always is when it comes to PSG. I don't know if you've seen this stat. He accumulated 0.02 expected goals last night, which was 0.26 less than Dan Burn.
Oh, wow.
So, as I say, so much is always focused on him. What did you think of his performance? And I know before we came on, we talked about it, and you mentioned it already. Clearly, Eddie Howe knew he's a threat, like he did with a number of those players in that team, of course. And it did seem as at any moment he got on the ball, they swarmed around him, Newcastle.
I think when I watched the game, I actually felt sorry for him because every time he got the ball, you could tell he wanted to take players on.
Yeah.
But he had that many players around him. There was no space to knock it past anyone because you had cover. And when you passed it off, it was other players that weren't doing enough with the ball. You know, if Mbappe's got 3 players on him, pass the ball quickly, and then can Ramos do something? He done nothing. Muani done nothing. That was the problem. It was like, let's keep Mbappe and Dembele doubled up on, but the other players didn't help Mbappe or Dembele. So it's one of them games. I wouldn't be too harsh on Mbappe because if you actually watch the game, what more could he have done? Newcastle was so good defensively, got bodies back.
I suppose the problem with Mbappe is that sometimes he just looks disinterested.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little bit like that last night. And obviously he was one of the first off the pitch, which in a way I don't really have an issue with.
It was raining.
Well, and also, I mean, they've just been hammered. He doesn't really want to stay out there. He should acknowledge the away fans because they were there in their thousands, obviously. But also, like I say, because he's always the one that's singled out, maybe he's just thinking, I need to get off this pitch because I'm just going to get it in the neck anyway.
I think as well, you know he doesn't want to be there.
Well,
he wants to be at Real Madrid, doesn't he?
This is the other issue as well, isn't it? Do you feel there's an element of him sulking because of what's gone on?
From watching him yesterday and looking at his body language, he looked like a player that's frustrated at maybe his teammates. They kept giving the ball away. They couldn't find him. Whenever he was marked, someone else would get the ball, give it away. He looked frustrated at how poor his team is, and there's a reason why they've got 12 points from 7 games. Normally, you'd expect them in their league to have 19, 20 points from 7 games. They find it quite easy in that league. They've got 12 points from 7 games.
Yeah, they're in 5th.
It's not clicking for Enrique, and I don't think it helps himself, the manager, with playing 4 attackers like he did. I think disrespectful to Eddie Howe, Newcastle.
Yeah. Okay. As I mentioned already, we'd love to hear from Newcastle fans this morning. How are you feeling about that victory then, and How do you think you're going to fare in the rest of this Champions League? Can you go as far in this competition like the final, for example? Maybe you've got your say on this one. 03717 223344, and you want to express it to us this morning. We'd love to hear from you. Jake is a Newcastle fan. He's called up already. How you doing, Jake? Congratulations on a massive win.
Morning, guys. You all right?
Yes, very, very well. What did you make of that then?
Absolutely unbelievable. One of the best nights I've ever had at St James's Park. I still haven't been to bed yet. I'm on my way back from work. So I went to the game, dropped my son off at home, and then went straight to work for a night shift.
Oh, Jake, wow. Good on you. What was your...
I'm still buzzing.
Oh, I can imagine. So in a way, you wouldn't have slept if you'd gone home, probably. What was your anticipation like ahead of the game? Were you confident that you were going to beat PSG, as comfortable as it ended up being?
I know when we play at home, it's like a fortress, you know. Like, we can beat anybody on the day at home. Saw the lineups, I was a bit nervous, but as soon as the kick-off started, we played exactly like you said there. We didn't give them any respect. We just played exactly how we normally play. And obviously got the amazing result in the end.
And what about the atmosphere? Tell us what that was like.
I had goosebumps most of the game, to be honest.
I bet.
Hearing that Champions League anthem was just it was a special moment, especially for my son. My son's 9-year-old. He's never experienced anything like that. So, yeah, amazing moments for our family, definitely. Memories forever.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, Jake, appreciate you calling us. Thank you very much. Wow. Dreamland for most Newcastle fans, I'm sure.
Yes.
They've got Borussia Dortmund next in the Champions League. That one at home later on this month. There's a double header, of course.
I think they can win every home game.
Yeah?
Yep, I really do. I feel that last night, what they showed, you know, they're on the front foot. And they've got some dangerous players. I think people are going to underestimate how good Newcastle are. And they'll find out when they visit St James's Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, there's plenty more to dissect from what was a superb victory. A very good morning to you. This is TalkSport Breakfast this Thursday morning. It's October the 5th. It's the former Sheffield Wednesday and Watford Loneen. Yes, it is. Gabby Agbonlahor alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. We are asking for Newcastle fans to get in touch this morning after that brilliant victory over PSG at St James's Park last night in the Champions League. 03717 223344. That's the number to call us on this morning if you want to reflect on it, and that's what Dave's done, and he joins us now. Morning to you, Dave. How are you feeling?
Good morning, Dave.
Oh, how am I feeling? Crying out loud. I was there for the 5-0 that peels with that against Man U. I was there for the 3-2 Barcelona. Been a season ticket holder for 35, nearly 40 years. I was at the Sheffield United 8-0, and I think that's just got to be up there with them. It has to be up there with them. Unbelievable. Just the atmosphere. Bouncing. I've never felt the stadium bounce like that before in my life. You know, yeah. Unbelievable.
Dave, do you think that the PSG players crumbled under the atmosphere?
I think they did. I mean, look, you got to put in perspective. They could have been 1, maybe 2-0 up. I mean, that chance by Dembele, I think it was. A hell of a chance. And they just went into the shells. I mean, you got to remember we had about 160, 170 million either not on the bench or not playing.
Yes.
In the likes of Wilson, Botman, Barnes.
Yep.
We've got Kraft who's coming back. Unbelievable. It just, what a buzz. And the town last night was just bouncing. Bouncing.
I could imagine, Dave.
Oh, man.
How far are you going to go then, Dave?
I think you've got to put them into perspective. I think the group stages get this league out, and maybe it's the next round. You've got to be realistic. We're still in a project. We're building a project, and we're not there yet. You know, once we get Osimhen, we'll buy him. And then we might look some. He's only be about 130 million. I mean, they might find that change in the pocket somewhere.
I was about to say that's pocket change for you, Dave.
Yeah, of course it is.
Well, the only way is up. The only way is up, Dave. And, you should celebrate, certainly, that success last night, because it's absolutely fantastic. Thanks for calling us, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
By the way, just wanted to pick up on a text that we received where you said about Newcastle will win every home game. Max in London posing the question, but what about when they were 1-0 up against 10 men Liverpool?
Yes.
clearly you were talking about Champions League.
Of course.
That's how I took it.
Of course I did. Max not listening.
Just wanted to just to clarify, Max, that's what you were talking about. Yeah, there's a couple more home games to come for Newcastle in the Champions League, Dortmund, and then they finish, of course, the campaign in the group stage wise with a home game against Milan.
Yes.
Right, it's time for us to take a look at today's back pages.
Backpage review on TalkSport with Tesco Mobile for Business. Join Tesco Mobile and get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. For applicable terms and verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
We are joined by TalkSport's very own Shabana Hearn.
Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning, Shabana.
Good morning, Gabby. Good morning. It's hard to avoid the celebrations across the tune in Newcastle last night. That's the focus in all of the back pages.
Not Celtic
losing. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Whoa.
So we'll get to that.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Like a minute into Shaban being on the show.
I'm sorry.
I don't even think it was that now.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. Sorry.
Jeez, my goodness. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Just give me a minute. Let's focus on Newcastle just now. As you're saying, local heroes, of course. Longstaff and Dan Burn dominating the back page of The Sun today. They shattered Mbappe. Local heroes is the headline there, and the pictures of the celebrations. Klopp demands replays, back page of the Times. Above that, another picture of the local lads celebrating, surrounded by their teammates as well. After that 4-1 thumping over PSG, World Cup to have 6 hosts is also on the back page of the Times. Kevin Keegan, dig at female pundits. We'll come back to that in a second. The Mirror going for tune in for the kill, but KYL, like Kylian Mbappe. Smart. Is that
clever.
Play it again. Klopp demands replay after farce and Spurs loss. And then under that, the picture of Almiron, how much it means to open the scoring, to get the first goal in the Champions League at St James's Park in 20 years. That picture of him, he's the cutest little thing. Also the Telegraph going for that great picture of Dan Burn. He's just so big above everybody else.
Yeah.
So, going in for the cuddle with Anthony Gordon as well. So celebrations for Newcastle. It's almost like they won the Champions League, isn't it? This morning, waking it up.
Well, let them have their moment.
Oh, they need it. It's brilliant.
I think it's a wonderful, wonderful victory. So go on.
It truly is. Absolutely is. Let's talk about Kevin Keegan quickly, Natalie, because it's back page of the Times. Martin Ziegler writing, Kevin Keegan said he does not like listening to female pundits talking about the England men's team. He said that he had a problem with an England lady footballer, given her view about a match involving the national team. He says, I'm not as keen. I've got to be honest, and it may not be a view shared. I don't like to listen to ladies talking about the England men's team because the match, I don't think it's all the same experience, and I have a problem with that.
Wow.
So yeah, these comments I think are pretty bad, especially when you read them in black and white as well. You go inside the Times, he talks about the support and the growth of women's football and how he's right behind that. But when it comes to punditry, women keep to women, or ladies keep to ladies, and men keeps to men.
I disagree with that.
Why?
Because I think it's football as one, isn't it? Why not? And I feel like women pundits, they're so good on a women's game. Look at you, Shaban, yourself, Natalie. Look how good Laura's done on this channel as well. And there's Reshmin, there's Jules Breach. There's so many I've not named that are doing that outstanding job talking about the men's game. So I disagree with them comments.
I think as well, Natalie, and I'm really excited to hear your view on this, because sometimes it feels like you bang your head off a wall.
Stop clenching your fist, Natalie. Take a deep breath.
She's going to blow. If you've ever seen Natalie Sawyer lose it, it's going to happen this morning.
No, do you know what? Listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion. He's not the only one that thinks that those kind of views. I think it is slightly antiquated, of course. I think there's no reason why a Jill Scott, Karen Carney, whoever it is, can't be in situ alongside a Gary Neville, a Jamie Carragher, whoever it is that they're alongside, and have an opinion on a game of football that they've played in, that they are a fan of. It's no different to anybody who really wants to talk about the beautiful game, like ourselves, me and you, Shaban. We love football, so we want to be a part of it, and there's absolutely no reason why they can't be. I am also of that thinking. I don't think we should always be comparing the two, because they are still very different, and of course they are, because the women's game is as rapidly as it's growing, it's still an emerging professional sport. So, but I have no problem with a woman pundit being alongside whoever talking about the men's football, because ultimately it's the same rules, it's the same laws that they're talking
same
about.
Ball.
It's
everything is the same, basically. So I don't have a problem with it.
And I think reading the quotes as well, that's the thing. Like, we're all entitled to have our own favourite pundits, but when you just bring their gender into it, ladies stick to ladies, men stick to men's, it just creates a divisive society once more when things are growing and going in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, for him to single out ladies
Yeah.
talking about women's or men's football, I'm just like, that's just dumb. Like, that's just a dumb thing to say. Like you say, he's behind the growth of women's football. And for me, reading these comments, they're just pure sexist.
Yeah, it's not the best, really, from
Agreed,
Kimchi. But ultimately, like I say, he's not the only one that shares those thoughts.
Of course.
And of course, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that is his. Shaban for now. Thank you very much. Coming up, all eyes on Mbappe last night after a poor performance. Has he been given too much power by PSG? We'll discuss it next. But that was a look at today's back pages. Kevin Hatchard. Kevin, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Kevin.
I'm very well, very well. How are we?
Yeah, very, very well. And what a night at St James's Park. Obviously, we started talking about it. Loads of Newcastle fans getting in touch and in dreamland right now. But as we mentioned, Kylian Mbappe getting the headlines for obviously the wrong reasons. A frustrating night for him.
Yeah, very frustrating. And you mentioned what the reaction was in France. I was reading L'Equipe this morning, which is their kind of major football publication. And their headline was Mbappe and Kolo Muani disappeared. And that was the case because Paris came with a very attacking formation, I thought, try and squeeze Kolo Muani, Mbappe, Dembele all into the team. It just didn't work. And I think there is a bit of concern at the moment because Luis Enrique's early games as Paris coach, yes, there have been some good performances. They smashed Marseille in Le Classique. They were able to beat Dortmund on match day 1. They hammered Lyon, but that's not that hard to do these days. But there have been a lot of performances, especially against weaker sides in Liga, where they've come up short. They drew with Toulouse, they drew with Clermont. And so all is not well at the moment. Obviously, it's really early days in his reign, but there is a sense that they haven't got the rhythm that he requires at the moment, and he hasn't found the right balance between attack and defence, and he certainly didn't last night.
Don't you think it was very strange to play 4 attackers? I mean, I saw a clip, a picture of like all 4 of them in a line against 4 Newcastle defenders. Did they disrespect Newcastle a bit of not playing the extra man in midfield?
I don't think it's disrespect. I think it's something that Luis Enrique is clearly trying. It's something he clearly believes is the best way forward at the moment. It's what they did at Clermont at the weekend. They put 4 forwards in and they drew 0-0. And they did make chances, but the goalkeeper had an absolutely amazing day and they couldn't find a way through. So I don't think it was specifically that. I think he just feels at the moment, rightly or wrongly, and in this case wrongly, that packing that team with attacking talent will do the job. But I thought what they really struggled with last night, and I think this is a big issue for them, is dealing with the press. They could not deal with Newcastle's press at all. You look at the way that Marquinhos gives away the ball, I think for the first goal, and that was a real struggle for them. So you can't get Mbappe, Kolo Muani, Gonzalo Ramos into dangerous areas if you can't play through a press and get the ball out of your own half.
It did appear and look as though it was very disjointed, this PSG side, and as we've been talking about, they were just woeful really last night. In terms of how they are faring, I know you've already kind of gone through their results and the fact that Luis Enrique might still be tinkering with his team. I mean, it's early stages in this season, 5th currently in the French league. Would this be the worst PSG side that we've seen for a while?
No, I don't think so, because I think there's something happening there that is important, but it's going to take time because obviously, you know, Jamie and Jason last night were talking about the fact that Mbappe was playing with Neymar and Messi last season. I'm not sure he saw that as a positive, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And I think he's probably quite pleased that Neymar's gone. I think it sounds weird because obviously any team with Messi you'd expect to do really well, right? But I think the idea is going to be collective responsibility. But that performance last night was old PSG. They've got to somehow get that out of their systems. I think they have made some interesting signings. Ugarte, I think, is going to be important in the middle of the park. I think they've signed some good defensive players as well. But it's about getting that balance between attack and defence. But this is what Kylian Mbappe wanted. He wanted Kolo Muani. He wanted Dembele. They're his friends. They're players he rates. They're players he trusts. He wanted them to come to the football club. And he also wanted Neymar to leave. And so it's all come up Kylian, really. It's what he wanted. He hasn't been forced into signing a new deal, so he's still in control of his future. But at the moment, they need to find some more consistency and get that balance right, because they're not right at all at the moment.
As always, brilliant, Kevin.
Yes, thank you, Kevin.
Great to chat to you. Thank you very much. Now, the floor is open all morning to Geordies if you want to have your say on what was a fabulous night at St James's Park. How did you celebrate? Maybe you're still celebrating. Maybe you're just getting in. Was it the best of your football supporting life? 03717 223344. That's the number to call us on. You can also text us to 81089. Jordan is a Sunderland fan. He says, it kills me to say it, but you've got to take your hats off to Newcastle. So there you go. If you want to have your say on it, you don't even have to be a Newcastle fan. Maybe you just want to say congratulations, then get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Geordies, we want to hear from you this morning. Maybe some Celtic fans want to get in touch. 03717 223344. That's the number to call us on. Was that one of the best nights of your life? How far do you think you can go in the Champions League? We're taking your calls next. Is this the way to Barcelona? Newcastle fans.
That's your full-time whistle, and that's Geordie Joy on Tyneside tonight.
I can't thank you enough, because it's just made my night. It's made me feel life. There's PSG at home, 4-1, mate. Yeah, we can't complain. Like, honestly, absolutely amazing.
Come on, man, come on. Best night of my life. Been waiting this for my whole life, man. PSG has never seen this in their whole entire life.
Thank you for every single one of us Geordies that's from around here. You've made all of our dreams come true. Just thank you.
They're cheap, unbelievable. We're part of them from 1 minute to 90. It's the marksman, isn't it?
Did Kylian Mbappe bottle it? Of course he bottled it. He bottled it as soon as he got here. He just doesn't understand the absolute power of Newcastle.
Didn't have his gloves on. It came too cold up here for him.
It was absolutely magical.
It's just a way to Barcelona. By you, Lazio, Roma. Jolly boys are taking over. Champions League,
Tell me the way to they're enjoying themselves, and why not? It was their biggest winning margin in a Champions League match and PSG's heaviest group stage defeat since 2004. After the game, local hero Dan Byrne explained what it felt like to score a Champions League goal at St James's Park.
Yeah, I said it was like it sort of spoiled it a little bit, because as soon as I scored, I looked up, saw the offside flag, and you're a bit deflated. But as I said, as it went on longer and longer, you think, it might be a goal. And just to have all the lads jumping on you and looking around. Obviously, I've got all my family here and stuff as well. So to be able to say that I've scored in the Champions League for Newcastle is amazing. As I said, like it's surreal to think that I was part of that. But yeah, I think everyone was very excited. There was a lot of emotion in that performance tonight. So just to prove that we belonged at this level, we worked very hard to get here. So we're just glad we managed to get it done.
So, TalkSport's very own Adrian Durham was live at St James's Park last night. He joins us this morning. Morning to you, Adrian. How are you?
Good morning, Adrian.
Morning. I think it's morning, but yes, morning.
St James's Park, the place to be last night. What was the atmosphere like?
Listen, from start to finish, it was stunning. I arrived in Newcastle yesterday lunchtime, and I don't know if you know, but up here there's a bus strike. So there were no buses, and the roads were quite empty, really. It was a bit surreal. There's train strike as well. Didn't help. But there were lots of Paris Saint-Germain fans and lots of Newcastle fans already in the bars at lunchtime. So the atmosphere was set from very early on. Around the ground from sort of 4 o'clock onwards, it was electric. And then in the ground, as it slowly filled up, Paris fans were there first, and they were making a lot of noise. And then the Newcastle fans took over. The Tifo display in the ground before kickoff was all four sides of the ground, and it was truly breathtaking. And then the fans didn't let up from start to finish, and the players rewarded them with an incredible show. It was a privilege to be there last night. And you know, sometimes fans will say, oh, yeah, we made a difference. And you think, yeah, it was the players who did it. I think this time the fans did make a difference. They really gave energy to those Newcastle players. It was a pure privilege to be there.
I think watching the game, Adrian, you would have had a better view than all of us. But when Gordon pressed early on and he won it was a goal kick to PSG and the fans were celebrating, that sort of set the tempo, didn't it? Where the fans are on side, the players knew that they can go and press this PSG team.
I heard you an hour ago mention that, Gabby, at the start of the show, and I thought, yeah, absolutely bang on. There was Anthony Gordon doing it. I think Bruno as well, Bruno Guimaraes. I think he felt he had to show why he was worth being the highest paid player ever at Newcastle, and boy, did he show that last night. At times, some of those Newcastle players were kind of living on the edge a bit, but I loved it because they were flying into tackles, but they were timing them perfectly. Bruno, he actually put the ball out for a throw-in, seemingly innocuous. He sprung to his feet, punched the air, and the crowd just responded so loud. It was just a magical moment from nothing, really, just putting the ball out for a throw-in. But they were winning their 50-50s. They were making life very uncomfortable for Paris Saint-Germain. Every single player in that team. And there's a couple I want to highlight. Bruno, I thought, was exceptional. Sean Longstaff, I don't think that many of us thought he'd be in the starting 11 much this season, but he's kind of making himself indispensable, really, because you can't decide between Bruno and Tonali. Bruno wins that one, especially right now, but Longstaff has to be in there to balance that midfield. And I've got to mention Jamal Lascelles as well. I mean, He started 2 Premier League games last season, just 2 Premier League games. And of all the games, he started away at Man City and away at Liverpool. They lost them both. So you're thinking, has he got a future? But he's a leader and he's well loved at the football club. And I think he was magnificent just to come in. And he played against Man City last week. He has been, because of Sven Botman's injury, he's been in the side. I just think he's worthy of special praise. But all of them last night, you're right, they set the tone with going into challenges and showing what it meant to them as much as it means to the Geordie fans.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very confident display from Newcastle. What about PSG? How underwhelming were they for you?
Well, I think what we've all got to remember is that there is going to be a return fixture, okay? So everybody should just hold on. I've heard those Newcastle fans saying that, Mbappe bottled it. Listen, he's still a brilliant player. I don't think he was their worst player by any stretch of the imagination yesterday. And he's being singled out because of who he is, and I get it. And he went off the pitch. But, for me, that was let the Newcastle players and the fans have their moment together after the full time. He needed to get in the dressing room and act as he does as co-manager, telling everybody where they went wrong. Listen, they set up 4 across the top, and I was flabbergasted. I put a picture of it on Twitter last night during the game, and I thought this is either going to be 5-0 to PSG or they're going to get completely done. And Eddie Howe held his nerve. He kept attacking. He went sometimes 4v4 at the back, which was so brave of him, and I really admire him for that. And it worked in Newcastle's favour. As for Mbappe, has he stopped being a brilliant player? No. And could he do damage at Parc des Princes? You bet he could. So I would just hold off from the criticism of Kylian Mbappe. But listen, he's been there a long time, and I think we were all expecting bigger things from PSG. They're 5th in their league, drew 0-0 at a team in the bottom 3 at the weekend. I watched that game and they were terrible. So to me, it was no surprise that Newcastle won, but the emphatic victory was truly sensational and memorable. But don't write off Mbappe yet.
I think he did get it right, didn't he? Like you says, Eddie Howe, because when he was speaking to the pundits before the game, he says we have to be a threat as well. Some managers would have sat back, wouldn't they, Adrian, a lot against Mbappe, Dembele, sit in your own half and, want to play counter-attack football all game. But he said to his side, Gordon, Almiron, Isak, Tonali, run forward, go and get at this defence because they're not great at the back, PSG.
No, you're right. And they put him under huge pressure, as you say. With Eddie Howe, he's gone way up in my estimation. I mean, he already was pretty high, obviously, because of what he's doing at Newcastle in such a short space of time. Listen, 2 years ago, they started the season with 15 games without a win, and here they are thrashing Paris Saint-Germain. What he's done is phenomenal at the football club. But last night, I think he went another couple of steps further with the tactics, because in the past, certainly when he was at Bournemouth, when they took on a big team, Bournemouth tended to shrink. They tried to keep the score down. They tried to keep it 0-0. It was never going to work. And I think he realised, I've got better players here. I can actually take teams on. And he went for it. And if we're thinking about the criticisms, whether right or wrong, that Gareth Southgate gets as England manager, Eddie Howe showed last night that, they might be a big team with big players, Paris Saint-Germain, but we can attack them because we've got better players. I think a lot of England fans want that mentality in the England manager. So listen, Gareth is going to be there for the Euros, and I'm all for that. I think he's absolutely earned another shot at a major tournament. Who knows if Eddie Howe's the man after that to get the very best out of the attacking players England have got.
I know you've sort of said to Newcastle fans, enjoy yourselves after that victory, but, also don't get ahead of yourselves just yet. Plenty of games still to be played in this group stage. But are you confident they can get out of this group?
Yeah, totally. And by the way, as I was walking away from St James Park yesterday, there were so many fans still there waiting to get a glimpse of any Newcastle player that was leaving. But I thought, right, I'm really shattered. I'm going to go straight back to the hotel. I'm not going to get involved. Walk past the big market. You can't say no. And you just simply couldn't say no. And everybody was having a great time. There were songs that were being sung that were just fantastic. That Barcelona one we just heard there, that was so loud outside one of the bars last night. It was a fantastic atmosphere, a wonderful night to be there. And yes, of course, they're going to get out of the group. I think that's a given. Milan and Dortmund haven't even scored a goal in 2 games. At this moment in time, you would have to say Newcastle, they're top of that group. And not just by accident. They've looked the very best team. They defended well in Milan. They attacked well against Paris Saint-Germain. I thought they were absolutely fantastic in both games for very different reasons. They seem to have the lot. And even with Sven Botman out and Callum Wilson out, they're still putting on amazing performances. So, yeah, listen, not just get out the group. Who knows how far they could go? It might depend on the luck of the draw a little bit, but who knows how far they can go. But what a special night. And maybe they'll follow it up for the rest of the season in Europe. And who knows, Barcelona, maybe.
You said there about the injuries. You also got Barnes, you got Botman, Wilson, Joelinton, Willock. You don't hear them moaning, do you, Adrian, where other clubs, it's injuries, that's why we're struggling, the manager's struggling because of injuries. You don't hear that from Newcastle?
Yeah, I mean, if they'd have lost last night, I don't think Eddie Howe would have been calling for it to be replayed, would he? Listen, I think that it's something that I don't think he feels he can get away with that. I think he feels that he gets on so well with the owners and those running the club. And they're very supportive of him in the transfer market. We've seen that. And they're very positive about him. You never hear any criticism of Eddie Howe ever, and rightly so. So there's nothing negative at the moment. So why wouldn't he be happy? And why would he start focusing on a negative like injuries? You know, I think that Sven Botman's one of the best centre-halves in the Premier League. Yes. And I think most people would agree with that. So when you're looking, I mentioned Lascelles before, but because he's so well loved at the football club, and you could see that in the Newcastle documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, but those running the club absolutely love Jamal Lascelles. He feels part of it, and Eddie Howe has got that together. The owners have got that together at the football club. Regardless of what you think of the ownership, that's a separate debate. But they've got something very special, and they're all together in it. They all seem like that they're kind of friends together, if you like. They're all on the same mission. So, yes, Sven Botman, I think, is the key one for me. Callum Wilson as well, because he'll always get you a goal. But Sven Botman, so good. And I thought without him, that could be a struggle. It wasn't. It was easy. And even when PSG pulled one back, you started to think, wow, they've got the attacking players, another one, and all of a sudden it gets nervy. Now, they carried on attacking, scored another goal. The Fabian Schär goal is out of this world for a centre-half, by the way. At first, I didn't realise who'd scored it, because he's a centre-half on the edge of the opposition box in injury time at 3-1 up. It's madness. So it was just a sensational performance, but no negativity regarding injuries. They just crack on with it, and fair play to them.
Well, listen, enjoy the buzz around the city this morning, Adrian. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Adrian.
No problem. I'll be back to the big market right now. See you later.
Another chance here for Newcastle, and a shot comes in. Absolutely fantastic effort from the edge of the 18-yard area, and that is an absolute belter of a goal which has been rocketed into the top corner. This is a famous night coming up. It's right up there with the Barcelona win, and do you know what? It's just a great pleasure, and I'm sure every single Newcastle fan will say the same, to be here this evening.
Yes, it was an emotional night then in the northeast for the Toon Army. Fabian Schär, sensational long-range goal capped a stunning 4-1 thrashing of PSG as Newcastle went top of Group F in their first Champions League game at St James's Park for 20 years. Joining us now for more on last night's special game is the Double Ashes winner, big Newcastle fan as well, Steve Harmison. Harmy, how you doing?
Good morning, Harmy.
Good morning, Nat. Good morning, Gabby.
Great to have you with us, Harmy. And I imagine, October the 4th, 2023, for many Newcastle fans, that would have been penciled in the diary for weeks. One of those nights that you thought, I've got something planned, I'm going to cancel it, I've got to get my ticket, I'm going to be there. That's exactly what you did, Harmy, isn't it?
It was, unfortunately, it was. The ticket was an aeroplane ticket to Lanzarote. Cricket season finished. The World Cup starts today as well, no. So I'm going to India, so I had to get away with the kids, and it was great to hear Graham Courtney's voice again, delivering a Newcastle game. He did it brilliantly. But I missed it. I watched it from Popeyes in a bar in Lanzarote with other Newcastle fans. It was a magnificent night. I'd love to have been there, and everybody that I spoke to, the atmosphere, Graham mentioned, because he's probably involved in them, that night against Barcelona and Manchester United 5-0. came to mind with the atmosphere like it was. But the football club is going forward like you'd not believe, both on and off the field. And the players and the manager and the staff are taking it to a whole new level, and the feel-good factor around the club with the fans as well. PSG played against 52,000 people last night. They didn't play against 11 men. They did on the field. But that team played. You look at the city, you look at the supporters, the coaching staff on the sidelines, and then the players that went on the field. They played against the city last night. And that, for me, is what Newcastle is now.
Do you think as well, Harmy, that you've got Dortmund next at St James's Park? Even that is a must-win, isn't it, really, when you've got the players playing how they are, the atmosphere of the stadium as well. And I remember saying before the Champions League started that Newcastle can go through by their home record.
Nobody wanted to play, like Luis Enrique said. He's been on the negative end of a bad result when he played for Barcelona against Tino Asprilla there. It's a difficult place to come to as Newcastle. And I'm sure the likes of Mbappe and one or two others have played in sort of ferocious atmospheres before, because they're world-class players, top superstars. But last night, it's just a different game under lights at St James's Park. And because of that, you fancied Newcastle to compete in this group. It was a group of death. It was said nobody wanted Newcastle in pot 4, largely because of St James's Park. And that never let them down. And Dortmund, who play in a similar atmosphere in their home ground, they've got to come to Newcastle next. And where the fixtures fell, Gabby, it was, if they could get something in Milan, then 2 home games, all of a sudden, win 1, draw 1. And they probably are top of the group halfway through. And then it's, can they keep that momentum and that run going? So for me, you go into Dortmund, which is off the back of this feel-good factor. If they were to beat Dortmund, all of a sudden, the likelihood would be by halfway through the group, you'd be at least 3 points clear of the next team. And that, you would say Newcastle then would qualify, and deservedly so. But I think one step at a time. That was brilliant last night. There were some brilliant performances, some fantastic performances. And I think one person I would single out, because I did the game against Man City, and I singled out Paul Dummett, who was a Geordie superstar, having not played for a long, long time. There's been somebody who's captained Newcastle from 4 walls for the last probably 12, 14 months, and that was Jamal Lascelles. He came in against Man City, and he was absolutely brilliant. And he came in last night. So he's played 2 cup games in a short space of time, after playing probably 1 game, 2 games last year in all formats. And he came up against Grealish, Alvarez, Bob on the Tuesday night, on the Wednesday night, and then Mbappe, Ramos, and Dembele last night. And Jamal Lascelles, captain by example, he was brilliant last night, and I was really, really pleased for him.
We can still hear that the party's raging up at Newcastle.
That's your full-time whistle, and that's Geordie Joy on Tyneside tonight.
I can't thank you enough, because it's just made my night. It's made me feel like this. PSG at home, 4-1, mate. Yeah, we can't complain. Like, honestly, absolutely amazing.
Come on, man, come on. Best night of my life. Been waiting this for my whole life, man. PSG has never seen this in their whole entire life.
Thank you for every single one of us Geordies that's from around here. You've made all of our dreams come true. Just thank you.
They're cheap, unbelievable. We're part of them from 1 minute to 90. It's the marksman, isn't it?
Did Kylian Mbappe bottle it?
Of course he bottled it. He bottled it as soon as he got here. He just doesn't understand the absolute power of Newcastle.
Didn't have his gloves on. It came too cold up here for him.
It was absolutely magical.
It's just a way to Barcelona, by you, Lazio, Roma. Geordie boys are taking over. Champions League, the way to me. Show me the way.
It was Newcastle's biggest winning margin in a Champions League match and PSG's heaviest group stage defeat since 2004. If you want to have your say this morning, call us up 03717 22 3344. Wonder how you're feeling, Newcastle fans. Claire has given us a call this morning. How you doing? How you feeling, Claire?
Good morning, Claire.
Oh, morning, Natalie, morning, Gabby. Well, I don't drink, so I don't have a hangover, but I've got a very, very sore voice. Really sore throat. There's too much singing, but can you ever have too much singing? After a night like that, it was just incredible. I mean, I was at the Barcelona game years ago when Tino scored his hat-trick, and kind of just started going before that era. So I've been going for about 40 years, kind of on and off, you know. And I couldn't get a ticket last night. My son's a season ticket holder, so I said, right, come on, I'll go into town, I'll have a bite to eat, and then I'll go and watch it I watched it in the Strawberry just across from the stadium. Met some amazing people. It was absolutely packed. And when Shaw's goal went in at the end, I just burst into tears, and I looked across the pub and there's another woman crying her eyes out as well. And I'm like, this is what football does to us. Like, it's nights like that you can only dream of as a fan. I can't imagine how the players hold their nerve when they walk on the pitch and that music is playing and that sound. Like, obviously, Gabby, you've played in big games and played for England, and I don't know how you keep your cool and how you keep your composure, because I'd just go to bed.
You know, it is clear as well, though. Fans probably don't understand how much they make a difference. You know, when I played in big games at Villa Park and the fans are so loud and they're so with the team, it just gives you that extra bit as a player. You saw the players, they would have ran more than PSG. They would have wanted to tackle harder for the fans, and Newcastle fans have been outstanding, and long may continue because of what you fans have been through, you know, from your last ownership and some of the football that was being played there, and you were still turning up to watch the team. So I think everyone, neutrals, are happy for Newcastle fans.
Yeah, it was poor, you know, and all we needed was just a bit of hope, something to cling on to, you know, and everyone from every club, from every fan base, you work hard all week, you spend your spare pennies on going to the game. It's like, I go because I'm somewhere else for 90 minutes. When that whistle goes from the beginning to the end, I'm somewhere else. And I'm getting emotional now just thought about it. And like, it is just, it takes you somewhere else. It takes you somewhere away from your week, away from your troubles. You know, we all have different struggles and different things happen in your life. And football is that constant. Now, obviously, there's wins, there's losses, there's ups, there's downs, but it's that constant in your life that you just absolutely love. And I mean, I still remember the first game I ever went to. And I remember it's the Sir Bobby Robson quote, just walking up those steps and just falling in love. And I was like, this is a bit of me, this, like. But last night, it's just up there, and I'm so proud of the boys. But I think Eddie, and bless, he's so humble, takes no credit. He says, you know, this is down to the players. I can tell them, but they've got to go on the pitch and do what they do. But it's just incredible what he's done, and the way he's turned us around from 2 years ago, being favourites to be relegated, looking like we were done. We had nothing to offer. And what he's done, two of those lads I scored last night were there before he arrived, and they were going to be sold. I mean, what does that say to you? You know, it's just unreal.
I think as well, what I like about what you just said, Claire, is that everyone does have problems, and football is that release, isn't it? You work hard all week, and even if you're not going to the game, you're going to the pub, you're going to the bar, you're meeting friends to watch the football. And when you see your team putting in performances like Newcastle are, the energy, the hard work, the passion, it makes you love the club even more, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And I think as Newcastle fans, we've had an awful lot of stick over the years, and some of it, you know, maybe rightly so, but we only want to see a team that tries, and just to be entertained and have anything a little bit more than that and above that, like last night. Like, those are the little nuggets you hold on to. And I was so chuffed for the kids that were there, because I remember the Barcelona game to this day. I remember singing all the way back home to my front door. So I know what those kids are going to hold on to for the rest of their life. They remember where they sat, where they were, what they sang, and what that feeling was like. And Dan Burn said it last night. He said, you know, we could give this next generation the inspiration. He says, I've done it. I've stood on the terraces, and I'm now scoring a Champions League goal for my team.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got goosebumps.
It's a special moment for Dan Burn, special moment for Sean Longstaff as well, to score, as you say, for their home club. And Claire, you can hear how happy you are. You can hear the smile on your face. So thank you very much for ringing us up to just reflect how your evening went. Let's speak to a man who scored so many goals for Newcastle. It's the former Toon striker, Mickey Quinn, who joins us. Mickey, how you doing?
Good morning, Mickey.
Morning, Nat. Morning, Gabby.
How are you?
Oh, very, very well. Cloud 9 after last night. I've got to laugh. You just heard Claire there. I mean, and you heard Eddie after the game saying it's just a small step. Well, you'd think they'd won the Champions League last night. That's the feel-good factor that resonated from St. James's before the game. And listen, professionally, they did a job on PSG, which a lot of teams down the years haven't done that to PSG. So hats off to Eddie, got the tactics right. And what I like about it, 2 Geordies scored as well. How sweet is that?
I think as well, Mickey, when you look at the game, like you said, they had their tactics spot on, and whenever the danger players, Mbappe, Dembele got the ball, they couldn't take anyone on, could they? Because doubled up, even 3 players would run over and try and help Trippier with Mbappe. They looked organised, didn't they? And they had a plan.
The energy levels were superb right from the start to the end. But what I liked about it, Gabby, was Gordon and Miggy were dropping back to make like a Hadrian's Wall of Newcastle fans, their players, a 5 right across. So you see PSG, they had that kid, Zaire Emery, and basically he was on his own most of the time in midfield, and then they press, and then they press, and they force PSG into mistakes first 20 minutes. And that set the tone for the rest of the game. The goals come as well, and it was so sweet, and the atmosphere was just unbelievable. I was invited last night, and I was gutted I couldn't get up there. But I'm going to make sure I'm there for the Dortmund and Milan game.
Oh, yeah, you'll have to be there. Special night. We've seen it, haven't we, from last night? I mean, the atmosphere looked absolutely incredible. And we know that the Newcastle fans are brilliant and they are well supported. But it did look sensational last night, both during and then after the game as well. And you kind of touched on it a little bit with what Eddie Howe has said. Look, you can't get carried away. You haven't won the Champions League. But it was nonetheless a very, very special night. Because as much as, PSG might not quite be there at this moment in time as the force that they have been in France, because they're struggling in the French league right now as well, it's still 4-1 thumping of PSG.
It is, and when the draw came out for this group, everyone calling it, the group of death and so on and so on. But I knew that, especially at home with them fans, I mean, that was the first Champions League win since 2003. They've been starved of European success. That the place would be rocking. It'd be difficult for any team to come to St. James's Park. And the bonus to get out of that group was if you nick an away point, like they did in Milan, and win your home games, they'd get out the group. When a lot of people wrote them off looking at that group at the start of it, I'm not writing them off. Eddie's got a special thing going, but they're all as one, and they're all on board. And that's special, they're like a family there, and that'll get them through a lot of games when it's tough as well. It was a bit of a ropey start to the Premier League, but they picked it up. And they're playing some fantastic football, and 4 goals. I still can't believe it.
Mickey, Newcastle are 6 points off Man City, top of the table. I think it might be hard for them to be challengers this season, but how far off are they? What do you reckon they need maybe in the summer transfer window? How many players are they off
well, I think
the title?
they've been dicing with injuries with Isak, and Callum Wilson, basically. They're 2 magnificent strikers, and he's been alternating them. I mean, Callum's had a niggle as well, couldn't get involved last night. Isak was out for a long period last season as well. I think a centre-forward is going to be crucial probably for next season to challenge. But what I like, Gabby, is that, Sean Longstaff's come into the fold now, played last season, got injured early on this season. He struggled a bit without him. I know they still got Willock to come back, Joe Linton to come back. Got fantastic Harvey Barnes to come back after injury. They've assembled this squad now that they can challenge for top 4 again this season. And then again, I think, with 1 or 2 shrewd signings next season, They can challenge for the title. I mean, from where they were, I went to Cambridge versus Newcastle, 3rd round of the FA Cup last year, January. So, and they were bottom, and I just couldn't believe it.
When they got knocked out
by Cambridge.
Yeah, remember that.
The rise is phenomenal over the last 18 months, and it's just superb to see that club rocking now. The whole city's rocking, and it's onwards and upwards.
Yeah, you can feel that positivity, that's for sure. So, Mickey, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mickey.
Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you as well. Let's get back to Newcastle, shall we? Because they welcomed Champions League football back to St. James's Park in style last night.
You heard them like the 11 comes in, and it is Miggy Almiron from fans here at Newcastle United.
Newcastle United 2, Paris Saint-Germain 0. You heard that right. Newcastle 2, PSG 0.
Get it out of this. Newcastle 3, Paris Saint-Germain 0.
The atmosphere was very special. I knew it would be. It's an amazing place to play football regardless of the competition, but I think there was an extra level tonight.
Another chance here for Newcastle, and a shot comes in. Absolutely fantastic effort from the edge of the 18-yard area, and that is an absolute belter of a goal.
Paris Saint-Germain and Kylian Mbappe have been hammered by Newcastle. It's finished Newcastle 4, Paris Saint-Germain 1.
Eddie Howe, absolute tactical genius.
There'll be a recession in Newcastle tomorrow because nobody's at work.
Absolutely brilliant, man.
Every single Newcastle fan who's in this ground tonight will remember this for the rest of their lives.
This is the best day of my life.
Goes without saying, we hope that gives us that inner belief that we need to be successful in this competition.
Eddie Howe, a god on the tide.
Sit up Europe, Newcastle United are well and truly back centre stage.
Indeed, and we've heard from plenty of fans this morning, haven't we? We had Claire who mentioned about tears in the pub that she was in when she was watching it. There was a fan who went to the game last night, had to work, so went straight to work for the overnight shift, but absolutely buzzing he was after that victory that he'd gone with his son as well. And just in general, the Newcastle fans we've spoken to this morning, Gabby, obviously delighted. So let's bring in another Newcastle perspective into this one. I'm delighted to say joining us is the former midfielder Lee Bowyer. Lee, good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Lee.
Good morning, Natalie. Morning, Gabby. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Great to have you with us. And what a special night it turned out to be for Newcastle. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think from the start to the finish, it was a great evening for anyone connected to Newcastle. From the first whistle, they didn't allow PSG to play at all. They got in their face, and that carried on right the way through the game. So, yeah, it was a great game to watch. Make the hair stand up on the back of your neck, you know. It was great.
Were you surprised how poor PSG were, Lee?
I was disappointed in some of their bigger players, but I think I'm just going to give all the credit to Newcastle. I think Eddie and his team set them out, and they got in their face, like I said, from the beginning, and they didn't allow PSG to play at their pace, Gabby. You know, they was trying to play, but they looked like their tempo was a lot slower than Newcastle's, and that plays a big part. Like, I played in that competition, and teams can travel and be not the same side as what you're used to seeing them, especially when they're playing at home. So I think if Eddie carries on playing that way at St James's Park, then they're going to go a long way in the competition, because teams don't travel as well in Europe, and I think that showed last night. So I'd give all the credit to Newcastle, not focus on how bad PSG was. Yeah. I think Newcastle just made them look bad.
Yeah, I mean, they pressed, they pounced on PSG at any given moment in that game and scored 4 goals as a result of that one-sided affair. And look, you can go back to their first game, that credible point that they picked up at the San Siro against AC Milan. It's so far so good. Of course, you don't want to get too carried away because there's still plenty of games to play. But in terms of what you think you can expect from Newcastle going forward in this competition, what are you hoping for?
I think they can go a long way. They reminded me of the side I played in Leeds, and we got to the semis. We didn't have no superstar names, but we had a group of players that gave everything every time they stepped onto the pitch, and we surprised so many teams. So we beat Barcelona, we beat Deportivo. Like, Valencia was one step too far for us in the semis, but we'd done all our damage at home. So we would win at home in the first leg, and then go away and hold on, if you like, because, like I said, there was 2 different teams that we was playing. But I think that they can go a long way, but their home form is going to be so important, especially with that crowd behind them.
I think you're right about the way you say, like, your Leeds side were all a team and this Newcastle side are the same, because you look at Gordon, Almiron, 2 of the star players, pressing from the front, leaving everything on the pitch, doing the hard yards, the stuff that some wingers don't want to do, the tracking back, the doubling up on Mbappe and Dembele. And that's the whole team, isn't it? Bruno doing the same, Longstaff, Tonali, the whole team look like they're together.
Yeah, because sometimes Gordon couldn't get back and neither could the other winger, you know. But when they couldn't get back and help doubling up, then the two outside midfielders just slided across Gabby and filled their role for him, you know. And like I said, from back to front, I thought they were superb. The back four was just so good. So good. They defended their box really well, didn't allow them any time in the middle of the park. The fourth goal just summed up the whole performance, I think. That the centre-half's winning the ball halfway in their half, being on the front foot, not letting them play out, and then goes on and scores a wonderful goal in the top corner. So, I think the whole team and people that came on as well, like they took over the roles from the people that they took their place, you know?
I mean, they had a little blip, didn't they, Newcastle, earlier on this season when they went on that 3-game losing streak, but it's now unbeaten in the last 6, I think it is, in all competitions. You talk about the team that Eddie Howe is building, and I'm talking about the personalities as much as anything. You know what it's like to be a manager. How hard is it to gel all these people together and for it to be clicking like it seems to now be doing?
I think it's the recruitment, Gabby. I think they've got it spot on. They're not going for these big superstars, and everybody says they've got money to do that if they wanted to, but Eddie knows the way he wants to play. He knows the type of person and attitude of the player to come in and fit the group, so no one stands out, and there ain't no superstar that's going to start strolling around in training. I think he's got a group of players that they all know what he wants and they believe in him, and they're going out there week in, week out, and every day in training, I'm sure, and doing what he's asking. And when you've got that togetherness like what they do, then it's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Lee, thank you for being with us this morning. Great to chat to you.
Top man.
No worries. You take care.
You take care as well. Lee Bowyer there. Delighted for the start that Newcastle have made, and lots of fans wanting to have their say, Gabby, as you can imagine, on what was witnessed last night. Let's join another Newcastle fan who's rung us up today. Kev, good morning to you.
Good morning, Kev.
Morning, Natalie. Morning, Gabs.
How are you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, absolutely on cloud nine. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. The match was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, were you there? Were you lucky to be there?
Unfortunately, no, I wasn't successful in the ballot, but I'll be entering the ballot this morning for the Dortmund match, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, I can imagine that trying to get a ticket is like gold dust.
You know, the club's done a really good job this year because they've done like a balloting system, whereas all members can fill out a ballot, and then if you're successful, then you just automatically get the money debited from your account and tickets straight away. But what I was really phoning for was just to give Jamal Lascelles a shout out. I think he done absolutely amazing last night. He's been with the club for years. He captained with a win against PSG. I'm sure that'll go down in probably his greatest match of his career.
When you look at Newcastle now, or when I look at them, and it started last season as well, they've turned St James's Park into a fortress, haven't they? I mean, my team Villa, we suffered the first game of the season there. If this continues... I wasn't
expecting that, Gabby, to be fair, because Villa's been on form, but it was, for it to go from such a high at the start of the season, and then obviously we were having City and Liverpool, and then wasn't the results were expected, but that's football, isn't it? Sometimes it never happens, but speechless as to how well we're doing, and just proud to be a Geordie.
Yeah, but I think if you can you can beat Milan at home, you can beat Dortmund at home, that could be enough to qualify, couldn't it?
100%, mate, 100%. I put a bet on at the beginning of the season, Newcastle to lift that trophy. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know what it is? The odds weren't even that good. It was like 25-1, and you're thinking, because we haven't been in for 20 years, it should be higher than that, but I'll take 25-1, Gabs.
No, it's not bad.
You never know.
Well, the odds might have shortened now, so
definitely after last night. 100%.
Exactly, Kev. Well done, you getting on that early then. Listen, thanks for calling us, Kev. We appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
Beautiful. You're doing a brilliant job. Thank you so much.
Call free 0800 234 6565.
BBC Radio Newcastle. Now, before we talk about last night, let me just put it into a little bit of context for you. Let's rewind, just 2 years. Sunderland under Lee Johnson had just been mauled 4-0 by Portsmouth. Newcastle, under Steve Bruce, had just lost at Wolves and were without a victory all season. Things are a little different.
Brilliant from Cher, and now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Cher will! Oh! That is some way to seal it. Fabian Cher.
We would love to hear what you thought of last night's game at St James's Park. Newcastle United 4, Paris Saint-Germain 1. Has that scoreline sunk in yet? The Magpies were magnificent. PSG less so. Maybe they miss Messi. Perhaps they should sign this fella to replace him.
Huggins has gone inside. He's still going. He's up to the edge of the area. He's still in the penalty area. What a goal! Niall Huggins!
It was Messi-esque, wasn't it? Sunderland have won 5 out of 6 now in the Championship, with Middlesbrough their next opponent, so plenty to discuss tonight. Please book your place on the show as soon as you can. We will squeeze in Guess with Graham, and we'll probably ignore the World Cup cricket as we don't want to sour the mood. We are here until 8 o'clock. Give us a call on what is likely to be an ever so slightly celebratory Total Sport.
Total Sport North East.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
Tis a shame about the cricket today, isn't it, Ando?
Terrible.
Yes. Lots to talk about on the show tonight. John Anderson, former Newcastle fullback's here. Hello, Ando.
I'm great, Pridey, thanks, yeah.
I know, yes, I didn't ask you how you were, but I know you're great.
Yeah, I'm brilliant.
You were great last night and you're still great now. Marco Gabbiadini, former Sunderland striker. I imagine you're feeling pretty good too.
I'm not too bad. Yeah.
Good. A couple of
complain, as they would say.
fine victories to reflect on. Nick Barnes, our Sunderland commentator, is here. Hello, Barnesy.
Hello.
The power stayed where it needed to be last night. You had the power.
Yes. Yes.
And you enjoyed the game?
Yes.
Razor's here as well, our Newcastle United commentator. Matthew Raisbeck, to give him his full name. Hello, Razor.
Thanks. Hi.
And so lots to talk about with all of you this evening. So I suggest that we just crack on, shall we? Anyone got any objections?
Do so.
Okay. Right then. Well, when I spoke to Newcastle fans ahead of last night's game at St James's Park, a few of them, somewhat tentatively, predicted a narrow 2-1 win for the Magpies. It'll be tight. People kept saying, well, it wasn't that tight, was it?
To Marquinhos in the penalty box. The Paris Saint-Germain captain given away. Alexander Isak, what a save! Almiron following it! Yes! Miguel Almiron has scored Newcastle United's first Champions League goal for 20 years. It's still in play. Another save. Bruno with the shot. Then the cross and headed down, and is it in? The referee looks at his watch and says, it's offside. It's offside. It's offside. Telling players to wait.
I think it's a goal.
I think it's a goal as well. Referee is going to have a look.
Goal.
He says it's a goal. And Dan Burn, of all people, has scored in the Champions League at St James's Park. Final third now. Almiron to Kieran Trippier. Longstaff with a run. The ball has found him. Longstaff, it's in! Sean Longstaff has made it 3. Oh, and you can barely believe what you're watching. Dembele back to Zaire Emery. Closed down by Bruno. He's clipped it into the middle. The header into the back of the net. And the flag stays down. And the first Paris Saint-Germain meaningful attack in the second half is finished off by the left back Lucas Hernandez, nodding it beyond Nick Pope. Paris Saint-Germain playing it out from the back, short ball into midfield. Oh, brilliant from Cher. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Cher with... Oh! That is some way to seal it. Fabian Cher from distance has beaten Gianluigi Donnarumma and put it into the top corner to give us one of those special St James's Park European nights.
I thought it was an even game. I thought they had some moments where they hurt us. I thought we had some moments where we hurt them. I thought we scored the goals at good times. But to score 4 goals, it wasn't necessarily something that we expected to do. But I'm just delighted that we were able to do that in front of our supporters. And I think it's a really special night.
And you certainly enjoyed it, Ando. I was sitting near enough to you to hear you at close quarters last night, and hearing you again then. I mean, why wouldn't you enjoy it?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a closer game. I thought, to a man, I thought we were brilliant. I thought the pressure and the squeeze that we put on Paris Saint-Germain, I doubt they see that very often in the league that they play in. They probably get an awful lot of time on the ball at the back, allowed to play through midfield. They weren't given any of that last night. And I thought everybody did their job individually and collectively. And as I say, I thought to a man, they were magnificent.
Yeah, I think John Carver, who was also part of the commentary team last night, agreed. I mean, Razor, what a night. Where do you start?
Yeah. We're here to try and make sense of it and sum it up, but I think it's really difficult because there was just so much going on. But it was just, overall, it was special. The occasion really meant something. The build-up to the match was emotional for a lot of people when the Champions League music played.
Even Ando?
He was. A little bit.
I filmed him. You were a bit emotional.
You were moved by the moment.
You were trying not to show it, but you were.
I seen you film and I started laughing.
You did, yes.
And do you know what? If what followed on the football pitch hadn't been as brilliant as it was, I still think there would have been the sense of occasion and the gratitude from the Newcastle fans, who have ambitions for their club, of course, what they were witnessing and experiencing to be back at that level. But that the game itself, the performance, the result, was beyond the wildest dreams of anybody. Like I said at the end there in our commentary, it just made it one of those special nights at St James's Park, and it was different to Barcelona in 1997, and Feyenoord was an away game in 2002, and that had really had something riding on it. Those are special in their own right, but that match last night has got to be up there with those great European moments because of the standard of the opposition, because it had been 20 years, because of how well Newcastle did, because it was St James's Park, just everything that it meant. So many ingredients making it into the perfect evening, and one that we will just never forget, and that we were all who were there and watching it from a Newcastle perspective truly fortunate and blessed to witness.
Ando's already touched on the tactics, Razor, and Eddie Howe pretty much got it spot on, didn't he?
Pre-match, our discussions were about the Paris Saint-Germain forward players, and they had a front four, didn't they? Really, Kolo Muani, Mbappe, Gonzalo Ramos, and Ousmane Dembele, four of the best attackers in European football, in world football, and Newcastle were up against them, and they were without Sven Botman. There were concerns expressed by some fans, and there have been on TalkSport over the last few weeks around Champions League games. Dan Burn at left back up against some of those players. Trippier on the right hand side, I think Newcastle's most influential figure, but a player who's in his 30s and not necessarily the speediest fullback, despite being an elite level player. And yet they weren't really truly troubled by any of those. Yes, Paris Saint-Germain scored, but it was a fullback set up by a central midfielder from a dink into the box. Mbappe, I think, only had one shot towards the end that went wide. Gonzalo Ramos wasn't really in the game. Dembele put one wide at 0-0. That could have made things very different. And Kolo Muani got substituted. Didn't really have a big impact. So those players were kept quiet by Newcastle. And the defensive effort is not just about the back four and the goalkeeper. It's the entire team and the unit. But Newcastle weren't in defensive mode last night. They were the Newcastle that we see. They were front foot, positive, high press, man for man, individual marking with the press, on the edge of the Paris Saint-Germain box, and they were playing it out from the back, and they played themselves into trouble, not least for the first goal. It happened again for the last goal as well. They took chances. Newcastle didn't let them get away with it, did they?
No, I thought we were very brave. I thought Eddie Howe was very brave in the way that he went about it. You know, he was prepared to put that high press on. He was prepared to go man for man at the back, man for man in midfield, and say, well, if you think you're good enough to play through us, go ahead. You know, and Paris Saint-Germain weren't good enough to play through us. That was the honest truth of it. You know, they couldn't deal with the intensity, with the pressure that they were put under. They weren't good enough on the ball. Mbappe, greatest player in the world, didn't look at last night. He looked really heavy last night as well. He looks like he's carrying maybe a stone.
Didn't look too happy either.
Well, he never got a kick. I mean, let's be fair. And Dan Burn, we spoke about. A lot of people were worried about him. never gave Dembele a kick either, did he? He was brilliant. You know, the whole back four, as I said earlier, not just the whole back four, but the whole team, individually and collectively.
We'd like to hear what people think about, who stood out, or was it just a pure collective effort? Do get in touch tonight. 0800 234 6565 is the number.
Shall we hear from Eddie Howe, Pridey, on BBC Radio Newcastle, because he's been explaining his tactical approach.
A difficult game tactically. I thought it was two very good teams going up against each other, and I thought we had to try and unbalance them. We had to try and make it difficult for them to build from the back. We knew they would. That's their style. That's the philosophy of a brilliant manager, and so we had to try and unsettle them, and I thought our crowd helped us do that. I thought we delivered a really good pressing performance. As you say, we were man for man at the back against elite players, but for me that's our best way, especially here. That's our best way to be successful, but the players deserve a lot of credit for how they implemented that.
Were you surprised a little bit, Andrew, that PSG couldn't cope with Newcastle?
Yeah, PSG caused an awful lot of their own problems as well. They wanted to play through the lines. The manager wants them to do that. He got Barcelona to do that. He got Spain to do that. And it became very, very predictable and very easy to play against. It's one thing doing it, but when you do it at the pace that they did it at, there was no pace to it. It was just so slow. Gave you time to regroup, to fill holes, to get in position and say, well, you're going to have to play through 9-10 of us now. And they didn't have the quality and they didn't have the pace to do that on the night. But that's the way they wanted to play. The first goal, Marquinhos, who's not experienced player, seasoned international, I'm not too sure what type of ball he was trying to play, but he just gives it away, and from there on they were in big trouble.
And 4 different goal scorers last night, Razor, including a couple of Geordies and also players that have been at the club a good while rather than the new players.
Yes, absolutely. The Almiron goal that Andrew was just talking about there, he finished that really well, didn't he? Opened his body up and whipped it back across and beyond Donnarumma. That was a good finish after Isak had one saved. And yeah, when you look at Newcastle's list of goal scorers last night, you've got 3 players that were there fighting relegation with them, that played under both Rafa Benitez and under Steve Bruce in darker times. And actually Almiron wasn't getting in the team when Eddie Howe arrived, and in the early days of Eddie Howe, Fabian Schär is someone who was on his way out of Newcastle before the takeover and wasn't particularly rated highly by Steve Bruce, and conversations that we had on this show and were about whether Schär could even play in a back four. Well, I mean, that's long since been answered emphatically, hasn't it? And Sean Longstaff, well, another player that could have left Newcastle and last season probably played a bigger role than many observers were expecting, and he's just so important to the team. And those players there, but in fact the entire side, the entire squad is so well liked by the fan base that whoever scored last night would have been a popular goal scorer. It was Almiron who got the first Newcastle player to score in Europe since Papis Cisse against Benfica in April 2013. First Champions League goal since Nobby Solano in the qualifier in Belgrade. First Champions League group goals since Alan Shearer earlier in the year 2003. So new records, a new story being written by this Newcastle United team. But as you mentioned there, Pridey, players who've been at the club and come through difficult periods and are now here while they are competing at the top, along with some of the new signings, the big names, the old and the new, helping Newcastle United deliver something special. But among them last night, 2 Geordies on the score sheet, and moments that they will remember forever. I wonder what price Dan Burn would have been as an anytime goal scorer against Paris Saint-Germain last night. He got their second in the game. Longstaff got the third. Those 2 in particular, Eddie Howe knows what last night will have meant to them.
I really do respect the people that, the Geordies, as you say, that have had sort of lifelong associations with the club and understand what it means to play for Newcastle, have a unique experience really. So for Sean to score as he did and play like he did, and for Dan, they're amazing moments in their careers. But going from the difficult moment that we were in to now, I think it's a great lesson for us not to get ahead of ourselves. We've come a long way in a short period of time, but we want to keep going and we take nothing for granted. So amazing night, but we've got to continue to work hard for more.
And speaking of long-serving players, Razor, well, Jamal Lascelles, he's the longest-serving, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
Apart from Paul Dummett, yeah.
Forgot about him. Okay.
Yes, I think off the top of my head, probably signed in 2014. And then loaned back to Nottingham Forest for a year. But look, he's been around through all of that, and actually, his time in the team predates the current Premier League era since promotion in 2017, and with that was the match at Southampton that I know you'll remember in 2016 when Rafa Benitez was manager, but Newcastle were well beaten. And Lascelles came out afterwards and gave quite an incredible interview where he questioned the attitude and the mentality and the heart of some of his Newcastle teammates. And he did that as a young player at 21 years of age, I think, potentially, or early 20s, certainly. And, you think about what Newcastle were then and the club they are now, and there's no comparison really. But for a player like Jamal Lascelles within that, to go from that point to be brought into the team in a difficult time and to lead Newcastle back up to the Premier League and be there when they were struggling, when there was unrest and unhappiness off the pitch, and then through the takeover, which has ultimately led to him losing his place and having the best part of 18 months out of the side, not being a regular for the first time, despite being club captain and having played such a central role in everything that came in the years preceding Eddie Howe's arrival. It's been an interesting time for him, but now he has captained Newcastle United to a famous victory over Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. And we're going to hear from Eddie Howe on Jamal Lascelles now, who is in the team again. He was brought in for the cup tie against Manchester City, but is in the Premier League and Champions League side, really in place of the injured Sven Botman. And for Lascelles, with those 3 games that he's played, it's been a great week for him because he's delivered himself, as well as the team, 3 big performances.
Yeah, so pleased for Jamal. I think I said countless times last year how good his attitude was, how well he'd trained, how good he'd been for the group. But ultimately, he's desperate to show how good he is on the pitch. The biggest compliment I can pay him is that he stepped in and he's really stepped up to the challenge, and I think he's performed really, really well in the last group of games that we've had. He had to train so well to continue to develop his game while he wasn't playing, and my inner belief was always that he'd improved with the team, even though he wasn't in the starting 11, and his game was in a really good place. And I think he proved that tonight. So we're delighted for him. It's a real testament to his attitude and his character.
Yeah, fair play, Ando, to Jamal Lascelles. Played in the Champions League for the first time last night. Looked like he'd been playing in it for years.
Yeah, he did well. As I said earlier, to a man, they were excellent. Thought he looked a little bit nervy early on, but he definitely grew into the game. And tough for somebody who has been out of the side for so long, hasn't played any football whatsoever. It's one thing going in day in, day out, but if you're not getting game time, if you're not playing any sort of football at all, which a lot of these first team squad players aren't, and then to come into a situation like that, into such a big high pressure game, and to perform as well as he did, it's full credit to him.
Newcastle then top of their group, Razor, because the other game was 0-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, Newcastle top of Champions League Group F. With 4 points from their 2 matches, a win and a draw. So Newcastle have 4 points. Paris Saint-Germain, who beat Dortmund in their first fixture, have 3 points. AC Milan, 2 goalless draws, have 2 points and yet to concede a goal. And then bottom of the table are Newcastle's next opponents. Home first, then away, a double-header against Dortmund coming up at the end of this month and the start of next month. So what would you say? 2 more wins away from securing more European football this season, whether it's Champions League or Europa League. I mean, they've given themselves a heck of a platform to expand on and build on here with those 2 results. And Dortmund being bottom, yet to win. I don't know, and we will see this ourselves when we watch them. They're obviously a talented team with very good players, but are they the Dortmund, perhaps, of previous seasons? They've had a difficult start in the Champions League this season, certainly, but it's only 2 matches, Newcastle yet to play them. But to be top after 2 fixtures, would anyone have thought that? Probably not.
2 difficult fixtures. Okay, a couple more quick things, Razor. Firstly, England squad's been announced, so which Newcastle players have made it?
Well, only one, actually, and it's Kieran Trippier. There's no place for Callum Wilson, who has had an injury, and the goalkeeper Nick Pope missing out for England again.
What about Big Jamal?
His form. Well, there's no others in there. There's no Anthony Gordon. There's no Sean Longstaff. There's no Dan Byrne. No Jamal Lascelles. I could go on. Only Kieran Trippier, from a Newcastle perspective, is in it. Called up by Gareth Southgate, though, are Aston Villa striker Ollie Watkins, who's been in fine form this season, no doubt about that, and West Ham's Jared Bowen, who missed out last time. In the England squad as well, a couple of players who haven't featured much. Calvin Phillips, we saw him at St James's Park last week for Manchester City. Harry Maguire and Jordan Henderson, an important player for Gareth Southgate. England have 2 matches later this month. Australia at home in a friendly next Friday, and then the following week they are at home to Italy in a Euro 2024 qualifier.
And you're going to be talking to Eddie Howe tomorrow ahead of the game of the weekend.
Yes, it's West Ham on Sunday afternoon, and Eddie Howe will have his next pre-match press conference tomorrow morning, so we'll hear from him on Total Sport tomorrow night here on BBC Radio Newcastle and in our news bulletins from 10 o'clock. The match moved Friday to Sunday because West Ham are playing in the Europa League tonight. They've actually been underway against Freiburg in Germany for about 35 minutes, and West Ham currently leading by 1-0, scored by Lucas Paquetá. So keep an eye on West Ham tonight, Newcastle's opponents in London on Sunday.
Thank you very much indeed. Razor, you're getting some praise for the commentary last night as well. I'll read out one of the messages.
Very kind.
It's from... Hang on, there's so many messages.
Well, while you do that, can I just say how good it was to have not only Ando with us and participating and enjoying himself during the goals, and quite right too, but John Carver with us, who was on the touchline the last time before this season Newcastle played in the Champions League, and he loved working with us last night, and it was great to have him there alongside Ando as well in the commentary box.
I found the message I was looking for. Neil says, evening lads, I didn't have a ticket for last night, I couldn't watch either, but I listened in. I just wanted to say the commentary was first class, thanks to Razor, Ando and John Carver. I loved every second, says Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
A couple more like that as well. Thank you, Razor. Let's start by talking to Alan, who's on the line, Newcastle fan. Hello, Alan.
Hello, good evening to you all, lads.
Hey, Alan.
Hello, I was just saying, just before that, I said, I've got a glue on from last night and it'll not go away. And
I don't think you're the only one.
Pressure, by the way, lads, so okay.
I would imagine there was a few sore heads this morning. I think there's probably quite a few didn't turn into work this morning as well.
I can imagine that, John. I did celebrate
I'm amazed you showed up
at home.
What did you make of the game, Alan?
Well, I thought we played much better than I thought we would. Bear in mind, I had 1 or 2 changes, and you're going to get up against class opposition, but I think Eddie Howe sorted the team out, which way to play, and it worked a treat. I think it worked a treat.
Yeah, I think he got his tactics spot on. I think the players carried him out to the letter. I think he's got a little bit of a problem when everybody's fit now as well, because people have come in, have done remarkably well. They've done brilliant, and it's it's great. People get their opportunities and they're coming in, they're grabbing them. Nice problems for the manager to have. There's no doubt about that. But the performance overall was just, as I said earlier on, Alan, to a man, they were all brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening to Marco there before in Newcastle, right? It epitomised what he was on about Sunderland with the way they do it. And the way Fabian Shaw, who's no youngster, back end of the game, plays the ball to the one player, goes round the outside, anticipating the pass, and he struck a worldie. They don't always go in, but he definitely meant it.
Yeah, I mean, that stage of the game, you're thinking, what's your centre-back doing up there?
Yeah.
And the amazing thing about it as well, Alan, was as soon as he goes to hit it, he slips.
Yeah, but he wraps his foot around it somehow, doesn't he? Because normally you'd see that fly off the other way.
Yeah, and a great bend on it. But, I was thinking, what's he doing up there? He shouldn't be there. But great strike.
It was. John, what I liked about it was the way he curled his foot around it, as you say. His standing foot was going away,
Yeah.
And he curled his right foot around it, but he still put plenty behind it, man.
Yeah, I mean, the keeper was getting nowhere near it, to be fair.
And the stadium went absolutely nuts because that. Well, I mean, the game looked pretty safe anyway, but that made it absolutely safe, and it was just party time after that.
Before I go, lads, can I just say something? What I was pleased about, more than anything, for the people who young enough not to see what they saw last night, they'll never go out of our heads.
Yes. A few people have said that.
Yeah.
Good night, lads.
Cheers, Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
Yeah, there are a few messages along those lines as well. I'll read some messages now, actually. Thank you, Alan, by the way. 0800 234 6565, the number to dial if you want to come on tonight. We'd love to get you on, share your experience, perhaps if you were at the game last night, if you were at either game last night. Dave is in Cramlington. He sent us a WhatsApp, 08000 321 333. Start your message, BBC. He says, pride while watching the game last night. I couldn't help as well, but think about Albert. What would he have thought about last night? Can you imagine Albert's call today after that game? He would not have believed what he'd seen. I don't think.
He'd have been straight on, said what he wanted straight off again, wouldn't he? Bless him.
He would.
I think he would give Mbappe some stick. I think he would have been straight.
He might have done. Yes, he wouldn't have been impressed, would he? With the alleged best player in the world.
I only caught I sort of caught the end of it. Obviously, after the Sunderland game, he looks about 3 or 4 kilos overweight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's carrying. He look. What did I say? He looks like he should be at the Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
I mean, he was so athletic and lithe, wasn't he? It's so sad to see a player like that.
Yeah,
with all his ability.
Yeah.
It is noticeable.
Morris has been on as well. He's in Rothbury. He says, hi lads, obviously still buzzing from last night. A performance and result that every Newcastle fan deserves. Lost for words and lost my voice. My 17-year-old son Adam had tears in his eyes when Cher's shot hit the back of the net, and he never gets emotional. Truly one of the best nights at St James's Park ever. Great show, lads. Says Morris in Rothbury. Thank you for your message. Chase has been on. He says, as a Newcastle fan, I would echo Astrid's earlier compliment and enjoy success to all northeastern teams, so good luck to Sunderland also, and maybe even the Borough. Haha, says Chase. Well, you can't have them both having good luck at the weekend
because two choices this weekend.
They're playing each other, Chase. But yes, and actually we had the usual debate that happens ahead of Sunderland playing Middlesbrough as well. Pete has been on. Pete's a bit grumpy actually in his message tonight, to be fair. Pete says, will you please stop using the term derby for Sunderland against Middlesbrough? We always get this, as I say, don't we, ahead of a game between those two sides.
Ahead of a derby.
You don't. I was about to say that. You can tell I was about to say that. You don't cover Middlesbrough on your radio station, so you cover Sunderland, Newcastle, and Gateshead. So you shouldn't call it
but that's just an anomaly. I mean, I think it's a derby, but I don't think it's the derby.
Yeah.
Derby.
I agree with you. The Borough are on Radio Tees. They're part of Yorkshire. Says Pete.
Yeah.
Yes. He says, anyway, moving on, can you also ask Ando if Newcastle are back where they belong? How come it took them 20 years to get there? It's amazing what money can do to a sports-washed fan base, says Pete.
Little bit of jealousy in there, is there? A little bit of... yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's just what Pete, he's got a couple of things to get off his chest.
I tell you what, Pete, go and get yourself a drink and you just enjoy your derby at the weekend.
Let's have a chat to Andrew, who's a Newcastle fan. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Simon. Hi, John. Hi, Marco.
Hey, Andrew.
Have you come down to earth yet, Andrew?
Not quite. Not quite. It was. It's just been a surreal. A surreal 24 hours. I didn't expect anything like that to happen. I would have been happy with a draw. And mind, I tell you what, I haven't half been suffering the day. Dear me.
I don't think you'd be on your own somehow or another.
No, I was late for work. Oh God, it was horrible. But it was worth it. But I think you got it spot on, John. To a man, they were absolutely brilliant. It would be unfair to single anybody out, but I'm going to because that's a job on TalkSport. I thought Bruno was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was a man possessed, and it was like he was playing with a point to prove, this is my stage, this is my arena, and I'm going to boss it. And I thought he did. Trippier was fantastic, but it was just a truly remarkable, memorable night that'll live with forever, and I'm just so blessed I was there to witness it.
Yeah, look at it. I think a lot of people went into the game not really knowing what to expect, and probably would have taken a point, or would have taken a hard-fought 1-goal win.
Yeah.
But it just, everything fell into place. Everything worked. Everything that we did was of the highest order. From the management to the way that he set the team up, to the players for implementing the way he wanted them to play. Everything was just spot on. It was one of those games where we got everything on the mark. Everything just came together, and individually and collectively. And I'm with you. I think it's a little bit unfair to single any one player out, because I thought they were all, on the night, they were all great. And the scoreline, I don't think in your wildest dreams anybody would have predicted a 4-1 win. Mind you, I'm expecting some texts in to say that I had a 4-1.
Oh, someone will bet on it. Yeah. Now that you've said it,
that was the case. Yeah.
Before the news at 7, which is now only 2 minutes away, someone I bet you a message in to say, I had 4-1. Yeah.
I had a grand on 4-1. Yeah.
Yes. With Almiron to score first.
Yeah. And I had all the goal scorers as well. But look, but it's there to enjoy, most definitely. But we've got to now look forward. Obviously, big one on the weekend against West Ham away. They're playing tonight, and then we've got a little bit of a break, thankfully, and we'll probably need that break as well, because of the energy levels that we've been putting into these games recently, and games have been coming thick and fast.
Yeah, it'll be a really tough game on Sunday, but it just needs one more push, like you said, and then we can rest over the international break. Mind, I wish there wasn't an international break, because I hate them.
I think you're not the only one. A lot of people that get in touch with this show aren't too keen on them.
No.
Okay, listen, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for your call.
Hope the head gets better.
Yes. Kenzie's been on. Kenzie sent a message. He says, if you don't use Maximo Park's song Parisian Skies on Total Sport tonight, I will be disappointed, he says. A song you're familiar with? And obviously it's kind of appropriate, I guess. Decent song. I could use it now. There we go. While we play some of these interviews out, a little bit of that one.
Who was it? Parisian Parkways.
Sorry?
Parisian
Parkways?
Yeah.
Is that another song?
No, that's not that one.
That's not this one. No, this is Parisian Skies, Ando. Maximo Park.
Oh, well. Never heard of them.
Haven't you? North East Band.
All right.
Should have heard of them.
Should I?
Yes. Let's hear from a couple of the Magpies goal scorers from last night then. Fabien Cher's goal, probably the pick of the bunch.
Oh, brilliant from Cher. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabien Cher with... Oh! That is some way to seal it. Fabien Cher.
Just hit it perfectly, and obviously it went in. I don't know what to say, one of them nights where you think everything goes right, and I think it was just the end of a perfect night.
Yeah, he enjoyed himself. He's never particularly upbeat in his interviews, even when he does something like that. He always has the same.
Who, this singer?
No, Fabien Cher, this singer. You know the name of the singer in Maximo Park?
No.
Everyone knows that. You know that, Marco?
I don't. Parisian Walkway is Gary Moore. I know that one.
I'm just going to have to Google Maximo Park lead singer so I can pretend I know. Hang on.
I know they won the Mercury Prize, didn't they, a long few years ago?
Did they?
Yeah, I think they
Paul
did.
Smith, his name is.
All right.
Are they from... I know one of them at least is from Middlesbrough. Are they all from Middlesbrough? Are they from? Is one from Newcastle?
Paul Smith.
Anyway,
is that the same guy?
The fashion designer?
Yeah.
No, not him. No. Anyway, I also had a chat after the game with Dan Burn.
Dan, brilliant stuff. You've had some special nights at Newcastle already. Where does this rank?
Yeah, top. I'm a bit speechless, to be honest. We said that we were going to go and attack Paris Saint-Germain. We knew they weren't going to change the way they played coming here to play total football, but I thought everyone went well for it tonight. I think the way that we pressed, we won the ball high up, we scored some goals off set pieces, And then even Fabi's goal, that comes off a high press right at the very end, and he scores a worldie. So yeah.
Referee is going to have a look. Goal. He says it's a goal, and Dan Burn, of all people, has scored in the Champions League at St James's Park.
First you scored, then you had to wait. What was that like?
Yeah, well, once I scored and I looked and the offside flag went up, I was absolutely gutted. And then I think when you're looking and they're doing VAR checking, it's going longer and longer, and I was just stood there and I was going, please, please, please. And then, it half kills it a bit because you want to go and celebrate and go crazy, but it's settled down a bit. But as I said, I have to come here and watch the Champions League games when I was a kid, and to have the opportunity to play here for me boyhood club to score here just tops it off.
One standout moment which seemed to sum up the night was when you did a sliding tackle first half, put the ball out of play, and then it was fists clenched at the fans. You just seem to be living that moment and absolutely loving it.
I think so, and I think that we're sort of feed off the crowd a bit. That happened with the City game. I think we were a bit quiet first half, and then sort of chasing balls down. You win it, and you can feel the crowd. And I know we took a bit of stick for saying that teams fear coming to us with atmosphere, but I think that we've just seen it again tonight. Once this place is bouncing, it's a horrible place to come. We've played some big teams here and getting some results, so yeah, I think our home form's going to be crucial.
Timed that nicely, didn't I, with music there?
You did.
Yes, and they were formed in Newcastle Maximo Park.
All right.
So I think I think one of them's at least from Teesside, but I don't know. But yeah, a northeast band certainly under. So now you've heard of them as well. And enjoyed them accompanying Dan Burn and Fabian Schär, their goal commentaries and interviews.
He should score more, shouldn't he?
What, Dan Burn? I should have said that to him in the interview.
Yeah.
He should get a few more, Dan.
We should score. Actually, we should score more from set pieces with the size of that we've got, the height advantage that we've got over a lot of sides. We don't score enough from set pieces. We should score an awful lot more.
Listen to you grumbling after a 4-1 win over Paris Saint-Germain.
You've always got to be on the
You're
up.
Right, you do. Steve's on the line anyway. Hello, Steve. How you doing?
Hello, lads. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Steve.
Good, thanks, Steve. You enjoyed it last night?
I really, really enjoyed it, mate. So, yeah, I told the producer that you actually spoke to me outside of Shearer's at about 6 o'clock last night, and we talked about winning individual battles.
Oh,
and
yes.
I thought
we played that out.
Yes. I thought everybody across the pitch won all their individual battles. And you mentioned Dan Burn there just before in the audio about G'ing the crowd up from minute one, and I think we won that battle off the pitch as well. And it just added to everything, the atmosphere. The ground was full and bouncing about 15-20 minutes before kick-off, and I don't think that's happened since the early 90s when it was all standing. And it was just excellent night.
Yeah, it was a great night. I mean, the atmosphere beforehand, the display and everything that went with it looked absolutely fabulous. And then you're thinking, can we go and do something a bit special? And we did. And it was a great performance. And you're right, we did win all our individual battles. And if you win those individual battles on the pitch, or win the majority of those individual battles, you've got a big chance of then going on to win the game. And none of those players last night left anything on that pitch. You know, they gave it everything that they had. They were immense. To a man, they were immense. It was a great night. It was a hell of a performance, both individually and collectively. We were brilliant.
Yeah, totally agree. And I'd like to echo as well Astrid's comments from before, Mark, or for you as well. All of my in-laws are Sunderland fans, so it's nice to see you achieving and doing the same things, and it's great to see you. When you pull together as a team like we did last night, where it takes you, just fighting for each other on the pitch and fighting for each other off the pitch, it really does help lift everybody, and then that's what's happening in the northeast at the minute, and it's good to see.
Yeah, well said.
I agree, and I tell you what, one thing, obviously I'm not a Newcastle fan as you know, but it is good to see an English manager doing well in the Champions League. You know, that is good for our game, and English players and players brought through from the academies, and we're seeing that at our club as well. And it's nothing, I've got nothing against players who are coming in from other countries, but we have got so much talent in this country, And I get tired sometimes of our players not getting, and managers especially, not getting the chance to be, as good as they can be. When you see a team like Watford last night, how they're struggling, and Sheffield Wednesday's manager getting the sack because he's just completely misread the situation at Sheffield Wednesday and the way that they can play. And I just think it's great that English managers are doing well.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think it means...
And coaches, a lot of his coaches are English as well. He hasn't got a mix.
I think
it's good for our game. For years we've struggled, I think.
You've got to look at that Newcastle side last night, the amount of English lads that were in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good crop of but homegrown boys as well. You mentioned Dan, but Sean Longstaff was immense again last night, I thought.
And young Anderson came on. Cover Sean Longstaff, do you think?
Young Anderson came on and was he was brilliant again.
Seemed to feel at home in the Champions League, didn't he?
Yeah, the amount of... A lot of people go and watch the game and they always watch people on the ball. People who are on the ball. But when you watch Sean Longstaff, when he hasn't got the ball, and the areas he picks up, and the positions he picks up, and the ground that he covers, and how he protects other people. Yeah, since he's got back into the side, he's been brilliant.
Yeah, he's undroppable probably, isn't he? Steve, anything else?
No, that was it. But just to say, great lads, great show, great commentary again on both games.
Thanks very much, Steve.
I've listened to the highlights today, so yeah, excellent. Keep it up, lads. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers,
thanks
Steve.
for your call, Steve.
Thanks,
good to speak to you again 2 nights in a row. Yeah, he was outside Shearer's bar when I was chatting to a few people ahead of the game last night. I'd like to speak to the 2 Paris Saint-Germain fans actually again, who were very confident that I played out before the match last night.
I bet you had to go looking for people last night, did you?
Oh, yeah, there was no one around. There was nobody around at all. Let me read a few more messages out. Firstly, Chris in Washington, thank you. Paul Smith, the lead singer of Maximo Park, was actually a talented footballer at school. Apparently.
Right.
It looked at one point like he could make it, but he chose music instead. So I didn't know that.
Oh, well.
So we've learned something else
there you are.
Tonight, yes. This one is from Simon. I can't remember whereabouts I saw it last night, but somewhere on social media I saw a comment saying, I can't wait to hear Ando's laugh after Cher's goal. So it made me laugh reading it, and again when I actually heard him do it. Because you did, didn't you?
I couldn't believe that he was there in the first place at that stage of the game. And then when he goes to strike it and he totally loses his foot and he just slips.
Yes.
And to get that much power on it and that much bend, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was brilliant.
Here's somebody who hasn't got their name on it, and I remember the message after the Milan game, and you were a bit cross by it at the time. It says, I texted you, Ando, after the Milan performance, and I described it as abject. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I based this on the fact that they are big in name only now. Our squad cost twice as much as theirs, and pressing is our strength, not parking the bus. They were there for the taking, but we bottled it.
We didn't bottle.
Well, anyway, John Anderson was apoplectic. Don't get apoplectic again. Anyway, last night we pressed. PSG are a far better side than Milan, and they folded. So have some of that, Ando.
No, we didn't bottle it in Milan at all. You've got to give AC Milan credit as well. You can't go and play like that all the time. You've got to be realistic.
What would have happened if they had played like that in Milan or tried to play in the same way?
I tell you what, bringing a point home probably made a difference to how they approached the game last night as well.
Absolutely. I mean, do you go to Milan and try and do what you did last night? No, you don't.
Away from home?
Away from home.
Very different.
It's totally different.
Stand by what you said.
Totally different. We went to Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd say, we were abject at Brighton because we got beat 3-0. Brighton were brilliant on the day because they kept the ball and moved us around the place. We went to Sheffield United. They were the home side and put 8 past them.
Should have done that in Milan.
Should have put 10 past them. But they were abject. Yeah. I mean, it's...
Anyway, this one, I'm going to change the topic again. I don't want to get you angry tonight, all night. And Will has been on. I knew this would happen, you see, Ando. I told you, didn't I? I'm absolutely delighted with one. Even better, I placed a £50 bet on 4-1 at 35-1.
Is that all you got?
36-1. 36-1.
Is that all you got?
You'd want a better price than that, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you just?
I still earn it still, but yeah.
I would have wanted more than that though, Pridey. And I'm sure you would have done.
Will would have no doubt been celebrating Cher's goal and then kind of wishing for the final whistle, I suspect. But thank you for your message. Oh, there's one more. I'll do this one as well from Rob, who's in Hexham. Hello, Rob. He says, can Ando answer me 2 questions, please? Firstly, was it a bit cramped last night in your commentary position? Because from directly opposite, it looked like it.
Yeah, it was.
It was a bit with JC in there as well, but it was cosy, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and it wasn't a cold night either.
No.
So it was a little bit snug, and it was a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't need to give each other the ball.
If it had been cold and really cold, it would have been grand because
you'd have snuggled in.
Yeah, without a doubt, but didn't need. You were trying to push each other away, Marco, last night.
We were.
Anyway, second question.
Sweaty commentary box.
Exactly.
You don't need that, do you?
No.
Rob, I was also put a second question to you. Ando likes a round of golf, so can he cure Nick Pope's hook with his goal kicks? I nearly caught 4 in a row from my seat in the Leazes Terrace.
I think he kicked 4 out on the bounce, didn't he?
Yeah.
He
does kick a few out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not the right one to cure a hook, are you? Have you cured your own?
No, I've been hitting this little draw.
Oh, that's a hook.
But then, well,
it turns into a hook.
I tell you what, if I don't get it right, it turns into a snap hook. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen you do that before.
But then when I tried to correct it, I just hit a big block, so it goes the other way.
This one says, check your emails. Predicted 4-1. Check your junk mail if you can't find it. Okay, I'll have a look. From Keegan Hope, which is a great name, isn't it?
Did you back it, though?
Well, yeah, did you? There's a difference between predicting it back. But, if you predicted it, fair play.
Fair play to you.
Former Newcastle United fullback, played in the Champions League last time around, was on the show earlier this week as well to talk about his old club against his boyhood team, Paris Saint-Germain. He's on the line now. Hello, Ollie.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hey, Ollie.
Good evening,
yeah, good,
Ollie.
mate.
Ollie, you did not see that coming, did you? You did not see that coming.
No, I could predict it. I said all we have to do is get the pressure high, and we did, because PSG is a very lazy and cocky side. But I did think, before the game that PSG had a better standards. And I was wrong. And I think PSG was horrible. Throughout the night, they couldn't get out. I mean, technically, and then playing with the front 4 didn't work at all. And I think the manager apologized for it straight after the game.
You did say you called them lazy and
they
cocky.
couldn't keep the ball. They kept giving the ball away.
I mean, they couldn't. At the beginning of the game, I thought they looked a bit cocky as well. You know, when Marquinhos had the ball, Ollie, and he was just he just stood on it, didn't he? And he basically waited for. It was almost like, come on,
come and get it.
Yeah, you're not going to get it from me. You know what? We're going to swagger around here.
I didn't think they anticipate the high pressure of Newcastle. I think they knew Newcastle liked to do it, but they didn't know how well we were doing it, and they got surprised. And one big thing that I thought PSG was waiting for Newcastle to get tired, because they thought they would it wouldn't last in terms of intensity, and it never dropped. So when they tried in the second half, they didn't have the resources to even get past the midfield of Newcastle. So they started bad, and the second half they just couldn't. They got suffocated by Newcastle, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went brave as well, though, Ollie, didn't we? With that high press and going 1-on-1 and leaving those front players and saying we can look after these. We don't need cover here. We're 1-on-1. We're quite capable of looking after.
Exactly. From the first minute, you can see that PSG is a man down in midfield. How they wanted to get out without a midfield 3 with a midfield 2, it was a bit too much, and none of the front 4 wanted to work last night to drop back into midfield. So it was a bit of a shame because I was expecting a better game. But at the same time, I'm pleased that Newcastle really got Paris petrified, really.
Yes.
So,
you know, Ollie, the PSG fans, they're very passionate and they continue to sing and beat their drum through the game. They're ultras. They won't be happy at all. What do you think they'd have made of it, the PSG fans?
No, I mean, as a club, I was with them after the game. It was literally the mist completely. You know, they haven't left Paris. Literally, they stayed in the bus. That's how they explained that the defeat is like we never started, and when it got finished, we could have played another game because nothing happened. So yeah, it was a night for Newcastle to remember, and it was just the way they've done it. We need to keep giving Newcastle credit and not really focus on PSG, because on the night I think it was a masterpiece from Eddie Howe.
And did you speak to Laurent Robert after the game, Ollie, your old pal?
Of course.
What did he make of it?
No, a bit disappointed with PSG. He was very happy that the way Newcastle played, but disappointed to see how PSG didn't turn up, literally. So yeah, a bit disappointed, but you've got to mention that Newcastle played fantastically well.
Definitely. And how was your night out on Tuesday with Laurent as well? By the way, did you get mobbed?
Was all right. Was all right. Whenever we didn't go out, we had one or two drinks. It was a quiet one.
You didn't go crazy.
No. Johan Kabay was with us as well.
Was he?
Yeah. He's academy manager from PSG.
Well, we've been trying to trace him for ages to try and get him on the show. I didn't know you had his number.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you should have said.
All right, okay. We'll see if we can get him on before the next game against PSG. Then, in that case,
we can do that. But yeah, it was around Fabrice Poincrat as well. No, there was a few lads invited by the PSG.
And do you still think that both teams can make it through, PSG and Newcastle? Obviously, Newcastle can, the way that they've started.
I think PSG will. Newcastle, it's all going to depend on Dortmund. If we can play as well as we did in the first two games, because I think, Milan and PSG were the one to worry about. We've played them both and we matched them. And Dortmund is a odd one out. They've got the passion, not quite the players, but they gel quite well on the day. But Newcastle should have more quality and get the 3 points both home and away. So after those two games, you'll know how good we're gonna be.
Ollie, great to speak to you.
Pleasure.
Thanks
Cheers, Ollie. Take it easy.
Tonight. Yeah, Ollie Bernard, a very interested observer last night, watching his old club Newcastle demolishing the team that he supported as a boy, Paris Saint-Germain.